2 Samuel chapter 19, David had to go on the run again because of his son Absalom, who wanted to kill him and had for a short time become the king of Israel. And whilst David was running away from Absalom, a guy called Shimei came out and cursed David and threw stones and rocks at him and trying to show him that you deserve to be stoned to death because of your adultery and because of your murder of Uriah. And now David has come back to Jerusalem and he's king again, and Absalom is dead. And Shimei comes creeping before him, says, "I'm very sorry." And David forgives him and says, "You will not die." And the king swore to him. So he forgave him and said, "You're not going to die, don't worry." When David is older and he is literally on his deathbed, he says to his son Solomon, "Remember Shimei and remember how he cussed me when I fled from Absalom. Bring down that old man's white hairs to the grave with blood on them." In other words, kill him. "I won't do it myself," he's saying. He was an old guy on his deathbed, "but you, my son, you do it." You see how at this point here in chapter 19, David forgives Shimei. But not by the end of his life, he hadn't. And this is the thing, to forgive somebody has to be worked at. It is not actually an emotion of a moment. It is like love. Love is not an emotion. On the cusp of emotion, you do not simply say something or make some commitment. Love is an act of the will, and love is a decision. And it's the same with forgiveness. Now, God's forgiveness is of an altogether different character and nature and quality to our forgiveness. The two hopelessly indebted men were frankly forgiven by their Lord in the parable, and that frank forgiveness, a forgiveness that is forever and that is total, is, I think, only really given by God. But we are to work on forgiveness. You may genuinely forgive someone at one moment, but, as with David, years later, you haven't, and it all comes back to you. Let's try and reflect the total, permanent forgiveness that God has shown to you and me. Let's try and reflect that in our relationships with people, and not drag it all up later.